Good afternoon and welcome to Nigerian Now, where we keep you updated with all that is happening presently or some of the issues that are actually bothering the country. And we feel it is important that we bring it to the table this afternoon, discuss it, and then also open the platform for you that is on our Facebook and YouTube. You do well to also drop your comment, drop your views, and follow us live there. Follow and also share so that your loved ones can also follow and see what is happening presently in the country. I am Stella Elisha Dasho, and I'm doing the program together with Rachel Tansey. Good afternoon, Rachel.
Afternoon,
How
Stella.
you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. We have quite a number of things
You
happening in the
do.
country that if you actually focus on it, Rachel, you tend
Mm,
to lose a lot of weight, but then
yeah.
nevertheless we'll put our heads above water. And I think part of one of the things that I think is important that let's start with the issue of this power grid collapse. I think yesterday we had that. I think at around 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
we saw where there was a national grid collapse again,
Mm.
and where we are having, some are saying the fourth, others are saying this is the
Six,
sixth time we
yeah.
are having it in the year. So that is to say, in a month we've had about two or so
Mm-hmm.
grid collapse. And then I think according to the TCN, that's the power transmission company of the country, they made mention the fact that part of the reasons that we're having that is the issue of gas shortage, and they also mentioned the issue of vandalism, that's
Mm-hmm.
people actually tampering with things. But then questions will come such as these. There was a time in the country where we had some of our power plants idle, that were even looking for people who were going to buy it,
Mm-hmm.
because there was a time where we had international companies coming
Yeah.
into the country so we could actually have some synergy together,
Yes.
signing of
Remember that.
memorandum of understanding, so we'll be able to improve our power sector. And we remember, I think, was it early this year or so, where we saw some of our multinationals leaving the country. And
Yeah.
one of the factors that they mentioned is the fact that we do not have constant power supply. And we know that power is very, very important when you're talking about medium enterprises, small businesses that are
Yeah.
coming up. Let's not even talk about many other businesses that actually depend on power. And then we also know that we need this power for some of our household, one or two things, and all of that. But then we saw that we had that collapse again yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Even though the power has been supplied, when I say restored whatsoever, but then let's not forget that just recently there was an increment, or we have a tariff increase,
Yes.
where the federal government, maybe they took the advice coming from the IMF, the fact
Mm-hmm.
that they should stop paying subsidy for power, and then we're seeing that Nigerians are paying more. But right now, the question here, or the concern, is Nigerians are paying more for darkness
Mm-hmm.
rather than for power. Now, what are some of these loopholes that the government presently can actually cover? Because if we cannot talk about progress, we cannot talk about growth of the economy without mentioning power, because we know how important power is to the development and the growth of any economy that is hoping to thrive and actually meet up with other developed countries presently.
For me, I honestly think, Sele, that the biggest part of the reason behind this power outage, the TCN might come out to, put everything alongside,
Mm.
but it's more under vandalism, maintenance, and all of that. What do we have generating that power in the first place? Um, First of all, our power generation in megawatts is still very low compared to
Very.
what other countries are
Mm.
generating. And yet, I wonder, we can't even keep up with the low power generation and then looking at what we have there. And the question is, how do we get there? And anytime I see the TCN, our power companies complaining about vandalism, there's one thing we've said over and over, and we've made it very clear here on this platform, that you are still the ones stealing and vandalizing your property.
Mm.
We're talking about power plants. It's not burgling a house and stealing a television set or a home theater set. It is not moving into a house and stealing a laptop or a phone. It's not even bank robbery, because just a gang of criminals can go into a bank, point guns, and get out with money. We're talking about vandalizing a power plant. Just a group of criminals can't do that. We're talking about electrical engineers
Of course, who actually know what is
vandalizing
needed.
a power plant.
Mm.
And secondly, it has to be maximum security. So what is your security for a power plant, knowing that this is a billions of naira, dollars, not even naira, structure, equipment, tools, structure, infrastructure, whatever we can call it. What are you doing about maximum security? Because I want to believe that these are not things that should even be stolen in the first place. It shouldn't be heard of. It shouldn't be vandalized. It means someone somewhere is sitting down and allowing it happen. It's the same thing when we talk about the rail tracks. You can't go and steal rail tracks and go and build a railway elsewhere. You're selling that metal as scrap. It's being melted and formed into something else. And I believe that this is the same thing when it comes to electric power plant vandalism, because you won't go and build another power plant elsewhere with stolen things from. These things are sold as scrap at the black market, secretly done whatever with this, used to form something else again. So we know where it's coming from. So sometimes when I see this reason, I feel it's a little bit embarrassing out there, because it says that you have thieves within you. As much as it's a good reason out there, it just shows that we have electrical engineers that are vandalizing the properties. In Nigeria, we have thieves working in disguise of fully employed people, because it has to take experts to vandalize power plants. So I believe that maintenance, I want to put maintenance under the vandalism, security, and all of that is all part of maintenance when it comes to owning such structure. And when you lack in maintenance, you would have a problem, because you know what? It's either fire. In fact, gas shortage is just new on the list now. It has always been vandalism
and fire, of course.
Yes, now gas shortage just happened to be new as a reason. So that is to say that it has not been a major reason or a major problem when it comes to our grid collapse, because it just started, is one of the newest, if I can put it like that, as it is. So it might just be surfacing now, but what have been the issues that have been behind the first, the second, the fifth, and fourth? We're looking at the sixth now, and nine ever since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu stepped into power. And I just believe that is so much work. In the morning, we started talking about this thing, and I say a lot of money, whether we like it or not. I know every place in Nigeria is underfunded like it is, and then we can't say that the power sector is different, but there needs to be accountability of what has been done over the years regarding power in Nigeria. If you're not seeing it, then it's a problem. I know you made mention, yes, we had foreign investors, yes, and companies were coming in, and the government, I think it wasn't even, I can't remember if it was President Mohammed
We had that
Buhari,
under Mohammed Buhari.
We have that under
Goodluck, Cement company coming
exactly
into the country.
And I know one of the humor behind that for me is that, how are we calling people that we are consuming the electrical generating product to give us power advice? Will they give us the best because they need us to buy their Tiger generator, they need us to buy their Meccano and all of that? Will they give us the secret behind of what they do? And Sele, we need to tap into other power generation methods. We have to take in other. It's not just water. There is coal, there is fossil fuel, there's different other methods to generate electricity. And whether we like it or not, we need to tap into it. And this is also one of the things that is killing us. Our lack of diversity. In our economy, we are not diverse. We will look at oil and look at oil for decades, despite seeing it's not going anywhere. We are seeing agriculture. We are seeing that this our substantial farming is not taking us anywhere, but we refuse and say it is what we are going to look at it. We are seeing that obviously hydroelectricity generation is also now taking us backward. If we need to increase our megawatts and our generating capacity when it comes to electricity, we have to look at every other ways. We can talk about that for almost everything in the country. We refuse to diversify and we just stay in one place, and this is the result for it. So I'm looking forward to diversification even when it comes to power generation in the country.
You know, Rachel, you actually hit the nail on the head because, I mean, for we can just talk about, just like you said, for almost every sector. We've just been we are so stagnant, and then we fix. I think I've said this over and over. I said it's high time we realize that the oil in the wells are drying up, whether we want to accept it or not. I made mention we have to also look at other things. You make mention of the fact that we have other means of actually generating electricity. In fact, ever since I saw the increase of the tariff, a number of people have been making humor out of it, saying, you know what, I think it's high time I just close my hand and then just get a solar panel and just fix it and just know that I'm done with. I'm not concerned about how much I need to pay for electricity and all of that. So we're just looking forward to where we have our leaders. And if will I say they are refusing, I won't really say that the government is refusing. Rather, I think we are not putting it as a priority, because if it was a priority to us presently, we'll look into making sure that, you know what, let us improve this, you know, this sector, because we know that we need it. Businesses need it. Everybody need it. I mean, there was a time in the country where we saw a number of businesses shutting down. Why? Because there's no power and they do not even have enough funds to buy diesel to be able to run things. So we're looking forward to seeing where the government will fix their eyes on certain things and also fix it. Now we're seeing presently also, let's take a look at what the former governor of Kaduna State, El-Rufai, is saying. The fact that, I mean, there have been this back and forth, Rachel, whether the government is still paying fuel subsidy or not. And then he had a lecture in Maiduguri where he made mention of the fact that, you know what, ever since President Bola Ahmed Tinubu got into seat, he is still paying subsidy. In fact, he made mention, I do not know how he got his facts, but then he made mention that we spent over 8 trillion naira already paying for subsidy. Now we know that, just like we made mention, the same thing with the removal of the electricity. We had to feel, because that was the first pronouncement that the president made on his acceptance speech and all of that. And we saw that everybody said there was no longer fuel subsidy. We have to start paying and then buying it at a high price. He said if the government is not paying, we should be buying fuel at maybe 1,000 naira to a liter and all of that. Now, and already the government have tried several times to verify and rectify all of this and saying the fact that we are not paying. But here we are having El-Rufai insisting. In fact, he made mention and said, we are paying a lot of money amounting to trillions of naira for subsidy, even more than before. And I made mention, I was just wondering, who are the we? If you say we are still paying, are you talking about the country? Are you talking about the particular individuals in the country? Who are the people who are still paying? Because as far as we are concerned, the government have said they are no longer paying subsidy. So is the government lying to its people? Is there something that is hidden that the people are not aware of? Because whatever decision the government needs to make, they need to know that the people need to be in the picture of all of this thing. We're here talking about corruption eating. We're talking about being transparent. We're talking about being accountable to people. I mean, just recently, yesterday, we saw in the papers where Serap is asking the government, you know what, we need you to give us the agreement loans you have been having from 1999 till date. And I'm waiting to see if every of this administration, because the only person that is dead is Yaradua. So, I mean, Goodluck should be able to give us that. Obasanjo should be able to give us that. Buhari should be able to give us that. And coming down to even Tinubu. So, all of these things, and then you just can't help but wrap your head around it. What really are we doing? Who are we deceiving at the long run in all of this issue concerning the payment, whether or not the government is paying fuel subsidy?
This is one thing that I believe that the Nigerian government will never admit to it, despite the fact that there are all indications out there. And for some reason, I choose to remain on the side of Mele Kyari and NPCL and the federal government of Nigeria insisting that subsidy has been removed completely, because that have been their stand. And as much as we have every other person aside from Mele Kyari and the presidency saying we're still paying subsidy, every other person is saying no. I mean, we are no longer paying subsidy. Everybody is saying you are paying subsidy, because we've had marketers even before El-Rufai talk saying that landing price, this was this was since the last quarter of 2023,
23, true.
where they said the landing cost for petrol is already 1,000 naira. So how are we still able to buy fuel at the pump price of 600 at that time, and now we are looking at it at 700? Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu made a promise that he promised petrol will not go
not
above
go higher.
700. And when it got to that point, he made a speech and said it will not go higher. And you can't make such a promise except if you are controlling it. Except if you're controlling it. Because, okay, we can take out the fact that perhaps the landing cost didn't change, but we have a naira devaluing as against the dollar, and that is what we use to purchase. So by virtue, even for that alone, if we can take out the landing cost, if we can take out every other thing that we do not know happening on the background, even our exchange value already says that the fuel pump price should have been higher than what it is now. Because in the past, because of subsidy, the impact of our exchange rate was not felt on fuel pump price because there was subsidy. So now that subsidy has been removed, it means that there should be the impact of the value of our currency as against the dollar on the fuel pump price, but there is none whatsoever. So whether Mele Kyari comes out and says it's a lie, there are a lot of indications out there that says, you know what, it might not be in as much percentage as it used to in the past, but there is still some sort of subsidy, because you can't make a promise as if you control the market except if you plan on controlling it. And right now I am seeing a controlled market, and that is why NNPCL is not giving, because one of the aim behind all of this, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said, marketers are supposed to be in this also. It's supposed to give a fair ground for demand, supply, eventually a price that, you know, it's going to be at a level, or I don't know, an average level where both marketers, the NNPCL can. But we are seeing the monopoly in the importation and then the distribution of this petrol in the country. These also say NNPCL is trying to control something here. There just has to be some sort of form of control for our fuel pump price to remain as it is, disregarding the exchange rate as it is now. However, one of the take home for me with what El-Rufai talked about is that when you make a policy as an administration, there's nothing wrong in going back and say this
To reverse
policy
it if it's
is
not suitable to the people.
And this is what I see the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration failing to do. And it's one bad economic policy after the other due to its implementation process. The first is the floating of our currency is in line. There is no reason why you can't take a pause and go back. Because without it, if you were to take out subsidy from petrol and then you were controlling the currency, we could successfully not have this kind of outrageous fuel pump price in the first place, and probably don't even have the need for the government to be secretly, there's a
Paying
word like that,
subsidy.
so paying subsidy seller, exactly. So, but you just see it, and you have to clean up your mess either way. And this is what I see President Bola. It looks good, but you know what? The dollar wasn't at 1,200. So even if it's there, I just see the President Bola cleaning up his mess, because you have devalued our currency beyond what it ever was. Now it's still messy, and he's still trying hard to clean it. that is what is happening when it comes to our currency. But he's not doing something magical. He's just cleaning up his mess when it comes to the floating of the currency. So I'm just hoping to see if we will have a humble administration that will come out and say this and this policy, we've tried it and we see that it is not yielding much. It's going to be long run at the detriment of the standard of living for Nigerians, and then eventually pause it and take a U-turn or just a curve, a little bit, and re-strategize and find a way forward.
Well, let's look forward to the day that we'll see an administration, a government going back on certain things, because just like you made mention, I mean, some of these policies are just like having a bottleneck and they're really affecting people.
It is.
Now, let's close the show by looking at, yesterday we had the National Bureau of Statistics giving us our inflation rate for March, and then presently it's about 33.20, so 33.2%.
Yeah.
And all of this was being influenced by the prices of commodities, especially food items in the market, where we're seeing that our food inflation presently is about 40%. So that's talking about year on year, from March last year down to March this year. I think in February it was about 37 or so, and then we're seeing that for March it's about 40%, and then we're still having other states, in state level, that is higher than that, like places like Kogi, Kwara, Bauchi, we're seeing about 40.1% increment and all of that. So that is to tell you that the prices of food is really, really high. And whether we like it or not, we have to link it to the fact that prices of diesel to transport this food from one place to another, whether we want to accept it or not, is one of the factors, because transportation alone, it's something. And they're not to talk about people who have to buy and then sell it, and then the retailers, middlemen, and all of that. So it's quite a lot when you look at what is happening. And then whether we like it or not, Nigerians need to feed. We can't say there is no food, but the issue here is that people do not even have the money. There was a time where noodles was quite expensive, and then it seems people stop consuming noodles, and then we've seen certain companies, their prices have dropped because people no longer patronize it. Let's not even talk about some of our beverages. I mean, you cannot compare them then 3 years or 2 years back. Rachel, when you take certain beverages, you know the difference with what you're taking presently. Some of them right now is just either you have just cocoa, it's just sugar and all of that. So Nigerians are paying more, and they're not even enjoying the value of their money, because the money doesn't even have a value anymore. Not to even talk about them being able to purchase. So you can go to the market with 10,000 naira, and then you're just back with a little polythene bag, and then it seems as if you're being robbed in the market. But then that is just the reality of things, that things are quite expensive, whether we want to agree or not.
I think when it comes to food inflation precisely, there is no direct list to what is causing this surge in inflation. Going from 37 to 40 is high. For headline inflation, we can understand that every other inflation is the reason behind the headline inflation: food, housing, and every other thing, medical and all of that. But when it comes to food, I believe that when it comes to food, it's just the indirect hidden factors, one of which is the standard of living. Because whether people like it or not, you are a farmer. For example, regardless, for instance, how much you are able to farm, if you are renting a house, you have to put in your rent into that. We can relate that to every other thing. You can relate that to just a shop owner. You can relate that to a tailor. Why they can no longer sew for you at 3,000.
Of course.
When before the minimum was 3,000, perhaps now the minimum you can get is 5,000. Because now there's rent, for example. Apart from that, maybe the lining for that cloth is not that much. But you know what? There is rent and they have to feed. So they put these charges into your charges for them to be able to survive, and then automatically it affects what your purchasing power and all of that is a ripple effect. And I want to believe that this is also, you can take this back and put it to food, products, commodity that we eat every day. It's not only the fuel, I believe is a major part. Transportation is definitely one of the major factor. But we can also look at these tiny, tiny indications at the site that whether we like it or not, it is part of why we are having this kind of crazy surge in increase in our food inflation. And everything has to be stable and go low. If not, we will continue to see this increase, because the thing about inflation is that it continues. The problem is how rapid, quick, and high it is, or how low, maintained, and slow it is in increase. But then we'll continue seeing. I just hope we will not see over 3% increase when the report for April is out. Yes.
Of course. Well, Rachel, we cannot just help it, but I know that, I mean, we'll still see these things going up, but I just hope that these factors, it will be able to control it. I think it will be able to help the common man out there. Well, thank you so much, Rachel, for doing this with me. And also thank you to our viewers. Thank you for being a part of this program this afternoon. Until we come again tomorrow, please to have a great day ahead.